Well, there's two issues there. First of all, the site Red Watch has nothing to do with us. We've repeatedly condemned it. It's a disciplinary offence for our members to use it. It's run by a group of neo-Nazi lunatics who at various times have threatened to stab me on sight for being a moderate and a sellout and in the pay of the Jews. These people are mad. That site has nothing to do with us.
Would you let the Gurkhas in?
Yes, we would. We run it.
Why?
Because
they're culturally and racially distinct.
Yes, they are, but the ones who've actually fought for this country, who are very sick, we would let them in immediately with no problem at all.
What about the hundreds of thousands of Indians and Africans who fought for this country during the Second World War and their relatives?
We said quite openly about the Gurkhas at the start that because Britain is full, we couldn't take 100,000 extra people and their relatives without having some people leave. If we could swap the Gurkhas for instance, the 100,000 Muslims who, in opinion polls, openly say they support the aims of Al-Qaeda, we think it would be a damn good swap.
But you deny the Holocaust?
No, I don't.
Really? So the Holocaust happened?
Of course it did.
And 6 million Jews were murdered by the Nazis?
There's no doubt that millions of Jews were murdered just because they were Jewish in one of the worst crimes in history. Yeah. So we're not fascists.
You have talked about political violence in the past.
I've talked about self-defence when we've been attacked. But, you know,
fists and boots, you
Yeah, when we've been attacked, yes. But the fact is that we decommissioned those attitudes about 10 years ago. There is now an organised mob called the United Against Fascism, which is backed by all the main parties. It's backed, including the people like David Cameron. It regularly uses violence against our people. And people like Cameron will not condemn it.
So what about a black or Asian British person watching this programme who wants to know what you would like to happen to them and their families eventually?
Well, a significant number of them vote for us, as a matter of fact, because they came to a Britain primarily because they wanted to come to a British Britain. They didn't want to come to part of the Third World or something becoming an Islamic state. So our position with them is that they're here if they've bought into our ways and values, say like Trevor McDonald. If they're here legally, they're paying into our system, they don't want to change our country into something else, we've got no problem with them whatsoever.
Well, in the opinion poll, people reject a kind of race response. Half of the white working class who responded said they had more in common with others of a similar class background, whatever their ethnicity or religion. It's about class, not race.
I certainly agree it's not about race. In fact, the BBC has asked entirely the wrong question by talking about the white working class. It's not a matter of white. There's a million polls here over the last couple of years. They're white. This should be talking about the indigenous working classes of Britain. That's the English, the Scots, the Irish and the Welsh, particularly the English, who bore the brunt of mass immigration. No, not at all. You know, I expect, for instance, people are saying, will I represent Muslims from my constituency? Of course I will if they come to me. A number of our councillors do a lot of work with Muslim women who are the victims of violence, and the other politicians, because it's politically incorrect to talk about Islamic violence against women, they won't touch the subject. We will. Overall, I expect most Muslim constituents of mine will go to the Labour Party, which has looked after them and their community very well in recent years. I expect they'll go to them first. But if they come to me, I'll treat them like any other constituent, because that's what they are.
Do you still hold the view that mixing races is not a good thing because it destroys separate race and culture?
Both myself and lots of Sikhs and Hindus and West Indians, plenty of them agree with me, yes.
So the perception that that is espoused through the BNP in race hatred, that's why people are rejecting the BNP?
It's because the BBC say something like that's race hate. I would say that people who want to reduce the world to a monoculture, coffee-coloured world, they're the ones who actually hate individual races and cultures. You only hate, it's only fair to say you hate other races if you want something for your own people that you don't want for them. And I believe that every people in the world is entitled, all indigenous people are entitled to preserve their own culture, their own heritage, in their own place. And we're the indigenous people in this country.